Welcome to the Sustainable Clinical Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Sarah Smith. I am a practicing rural family physician and the charting coach. This is the podcast for physicians and advanced practice providers who are ready to step back from the busyness of their clinical day to share ideas, question everything, and redesign their clinical day. We are redesigning clinical medicine to create sustainable clinical days and create time for our lives outside of medicine. Join us for discussions with world experts who are helping design sustainable models of clinical medicine and the physicians or clinicians who have discovered or designed sustainable models of clinical medicine for themselves. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back. So today I'm going to call him good friend, but also mentor, Dr. John Crosby. We haven't met in person, but I will tell you a brief story about our coming to know each other. So when I was in the thick of being unable to get home with my charting and paperwork done, which, as you know, is part of my story of why I help other physicians and clinicians now, part of the things that help the practical pieces of getting home with today's work done was reading some of the things that John had already published in some of the articles, in some of the journals that I would come across as I was looking for solutions. So I kind of call him the grandfather of charting coaching. So welcome, Dr. John Crosby, and I'll let you introduce yourself to us.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everybody out there, and welcome. Yeah, I am a grandfather. I have an 8-year-old grandson. And here, I'll go show you a picture of him. Very proud of Max. And so, yeah, I started out 50 years ago in June this year, 1973. I'm from Sarnia, Ontario, a very average student, 73 average in grade 13. I would never be a doctor today, up against all you guys. But I think I've got a lot of good old-fashioned family doctor common sense that I've learned by making lots of mistakes and talking to folks like you. I went to University of Western Ontario, interned in Toronto, and then came out here as a family doctor to Cambridge, where I am right now, and I hated it. It was horrible. I was terrible at it. I had no boundaries with patients. I tried to fix everything. I had no empathy with people. You know, I was a 26-year-old guy with unmarried, no mortgage, no mother-in-law, no nothing, no stress ever, lots of money. So now 50 years on, I'm way more empathetic to people. You know, I've got no hair, gray hair. I've got a mortgage. I'm married with 3 kids, all the joys and sorrows of that. Went into emergency medicine for 20 years. I've really learned how to be efficient there. Back in the good old days, we were on time. It only took us an hour to see everybody. So I learned a lot, what to do and what not to do. And then I've been a GP for 31 years since then. I have 2 nursing homes and I'm on time. I'm home at 5 every night to my wife's dismay. And I have an hour and a half for lunch, uninterrupted by phone calls. You will see the phone never rings here, and my in basket is always empty, both virtually and physically. I have no paper. So I'm living the dream, and I'm happy to share that. Took me 50 years to figure this out, so I'm happy to share that in the next 50 minutes.
Sounds good. So tell us where you were. So you didn't have all the solutions at the beginning. How bad did it get? What was it looking like for you?
It was terrible. I was clinically depressed. It was terrible. I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, but I remember waking up and hard to get up. Like I couldn't get up for 10 in the morning. Now I'm up at 6 every day, happy to come here, happy to work. My nurse practitioner just walked by. She's the secret. I dump all the work on her and my secretary. That's the whole secret to everything, is delegate. Get someone else to do your crap work. Bye, Kim.
Bye, see ya.
Easy peasy. That's her line. So I remember looking down the street to my office and not wanting to go. Like I thought, I can't do 40 years of this. I hate it. It's horrible. And back in those days, there was nothing else you could do. Like you couldn't just there was no emergency medicine. There was no walk-in clinics. like I had to figure this out. So I went back into actually internal medicine, which I was way worse at because everything I do in 5 minutes. They spend an hour trying to fix the unfixable. So I was really desperate, and luckily, emergency medicine was just starting in the mid '70s. So I did that, and I was fabulous. It was perfect for me. It fit in with my ADHD. I mean, I monetized my ADHD, but then I couldn't keep doing it because you can't do night shifts when you've got 3 kids and you're a 9 to 5 life. And my wife was a flight attendant, so I was home a lot. I have great respect for women because it's way harder being a stay-at-home mom than being an emergency doctor. I had 2 kids in diapers, and I would pray to get called in to emerge earlier. It's way easier to do a trauma or a cardiac arrest than 2 toddlers. So I have immense, when your husband comes home at 5 and says, "What did you do all day, dear?" I know what the hell you did all day when you've collapsed onto the couch. So it was really terrible. I was really depressed. And there was no one to help you. Everyone thought I was crazy. Like, why would you not love being a doctor? There was no Sarah Smith. There was no John Crosby. It was terrible.
Yeah. And so what made it terrible? So why were you spilling over into like beyond the clinical day? Is that what was happening? Like you were...
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't that as much trouble. I've always been fast. My mom was fast, my sister, so I've never had as big a trouble. I was a crappy charter. I mean, I just would draw a happy face and put 3 stitches on it. So I was a terrible charter, and I felt guilty about that. And I knew I was going to get caught, and I did. I got caught by the college and flunked twice before I aced it. So that was always in the back of my mind. I know I'm going to get nailed. I'm going to get nailed in a lawsuit or a complaint. And all of that happened, and my crappy charting bit me on the rear end. So I had to learn that, and templates are the answer there. It was really setting boundaries with patients. Like I always remember this guy invited me to a Toronto Maple Leafs game, and like, it's $1,000 to get a ticket, from scalpers. And so I went, it was great. And then the next week he calls me at home on my home phone saying, "Can you see my sister in Emerge with a sprained ankle on a Saturday night? There's a big lineup." So nothing's free. There's no free lunches. There's no free Leaf games. Yeah, and the Leafs still haven't won a Stanley Cup since I was 22 years old. But this is the year they're going to beat Edmonton. And so setting boundaries there, just like not, because every patient wants a piece of you and they only think of themselves. I always say, think of patients as being 2-year-olds. And I'm the same when I'm with my doctor. They only care about themselves. They will kill you just to get what they want. So you've got to put up a boundary with them and say, I can only do this much. I can only do one problem today. I'm done at 5. My phone's turned off. I'm done at lunch. My phone's turned off from 12 to 1:30. If you have chest pain at 12:30, call 911. Don't call me. It can wait till 1:30. So setting those boundaries is so key to every doctor in the world, and people try to guilt us out. I will die if you don't answer my phone tonight. No, you won't. You won't die. I was an emergency doctor. Nobody dies. You just call 911. There's nothing they need you for after 5 o'clock at night if you're signed out to another doctor. I urge anyone to tell me what is necessary that you need to talk to Dr. Crosby at 9 o'clock tonight for. If you needed me that bad, you need Emerge. Everything else can wait till tomorrow morning at 9. Trying to fix everything. And that took me 40 years to figure out. Like, people don't always want you to fix everything. They just want to come in and bitch about it. They just want to say, my husband's a jerk. I hate my children. I hate my job. I hate my boss. And you can't fix it, Dr. Crosby. I just need someone to unload. There's no one I can talk to. I can't talk to my friends. I can't talk to my family. I can't afford a psychologist. I can't get to a social worker. I live in a small town. So that took years, and they never teach you this in medical school because the professors never have your problem. The professors don't see 30 people a day. They have you to type for them. They see 5 people a day. You're doing the typing, you're doing the lab and imaging. they got a tough job. I've been one. They've got to lecture and do research and publish or perish, but they're not doing your job. And when you come out with a huge mortgage and huge student debt, you got to see 30 people a day and get home by 5 at night. And that professor never taught you how to do that. And Sarah and I can help you learn how to do that and do a good job and do good medicine and not miss anything and not get a college complaint and not get a malpractice case. So you can have it all, but you got to learn the tricks. And no one teaches you this because everyone that's taught you has taught you how to be slow and safe. So we're teaching you how to be more efficient.
Yeah, such an interesting skill set. The difference I noticed when I see even the difference between Canadian family medicine training and Australian family medicine training, the coming out of medical school and into a family medicine program that is not fee-for-service based as a resident, it's salary based, versus what I came out into, which was a fee-for-service based. There was a base salary, but if I had to survive on that, my family wouldn't have probably had either food or a home. So I totally understand the difficulties that residents are facing in Canada, but at the same time, you're right that the slowness of thought, which is an important skill to have, versus the requirements of, okay, I'm a single income earner with a mortgage and a student debt, and how do I manage that and get home to my family because I'm also a mom, right?
That's why women doctors have more trouble than men do. And that's why I feel like a woman doctor, because I actually was doing that stay-at-home mom stuff, because my wife was in Germany flying for Air Canada as a flight attendant. And as an emerge doc, I was off a lot. So I got to see how terrible that life is. And you work all day and you come home and you have to have dinner and you have to do homework with the kids and do the laundry and scrub the toilet and, and pick up the toys and delegate to your children to pick up the toys and cut the grass. And so you're just juggling all these things. And men don't have that. Men come home and they dump everything on their wife. So my line, it sounds very sexist, but this is what a woman surgeon said to me. She said, women doctors need a wife, which means, get a nanny, get a support system, spend your money on your support. Like we have a cleaning lady, we have a guy cut our grass, because I make good money. I can afford to do that. I can see one extra patient and get that done and go home and enjoy my wife and not be, cooking and cleaning and scrubbing the floor and stuff like that. So you can't use daycare. I mean, when you're a doctor, you're not a factory worker who gets out at 3 o'clock and goes to daycare at 4. So you might have to stay late or be on call or something. So it's all about your support systems, and you have to pay for those. You pay one way or another. And if you get a divorce, you lose half of everything. So it's way more expensive than getting a nanny and a cleaning lady and a groundskeeper.
Yeah.
I sound like a royalty, don't I? But that's the problem, The really rich people have always had this throughout history. They've always had servants, and the poor have a fairly simple life. They don't have to clean a 4-bedroom home. It's the middle class that gets crushed, and women coming into the workforce are working all day long at the workforce and then coming home and doing all that stay-at-home mom job. So they've got so when they come into me, a 35-year-old woman comes in with fatigue and she wants her thyroid done and her hemoglobin checked. I know it's all going to be normal. And I do all that. Because you've got to reassure her that you've checked everything. But 99 out of 100 are totally normal. They just have 5 jobs. And then I get them to time manage themselves. When's time for you? When is your time? I just talked to a doctor from Ottawa yesterday who's taken your course, and she told me about you. And, I said, when's your time? When is it not your children and not your husband and not your patients? Like, do you have any time in your calendar? And none. And you talk, 9 out of 10 women will tell you that there is no Sarah time, just to do nothing. Go for a walk, go to the library, shoot pool, bowl, hang out with your buddies, go drinking, play darts,
Yeah.
just meditate, like nothing, not medicine, not children, not husband, not job, not cleaning, not cooking, like just you alone. Like ask yourself and say, where is that in your calendar? Like I have John time in my calendar. Like yesterday, I went to Toronto the whole day and had lunch with the medical post people at a nice restaurant and went and looked at model trains. That was John time, a whole day. No one could touch me. I was booked off to my nurse practitioner. You've got to do that, and you've got to create that. No one will do it for you. No one cares about you. Your spouse, unless they're a family doctor or a specialist like you are, does not know your life. My wife does not. She does my billing. She doesn't know what it took to see that depressed patient. So you're going to get, the only people that can help you is a fellow doctor, a peer, no one else. So don't expect them to think about you or where they think you're rich. They have no idea you don't have a pension. They have no idea you don't get paid vacations. They have no idea you don't get benefits. They just think you have a lousy union that what doesn't do that. So you've got to create it for yourself and say, I'm going to be off the 2 middle weeks of July, and I'm sending a memo right now to everyone in my life. So no one's going to impinge on those 2 weeks. I'm not going to get a phone call the day before saying, I can't do your call, or, somebody's having their hysterectomy or something. That's my time. And Dyke Drummond, who is the Sarah Smith of the United States, says, with your off time, you have to defend it with your life. I love that. I love that. I have that tattooed on the inside of my eyelids, and I still have to do that. At this age, 76, I have to tell everyone in my life that I'm off the middle 2 weeks of July, because somebody will take a piece out of me. The only person you can help yourself is you. There's no one else. You don't expect the government, don't expect the media, don't expect the politicians, don't expect anyone to help you but yourself.
Yeah, I like the sentence, rest is not a reward. So rest is important for all the humans. And you're included. That rest is not a reward. It is part of what you need as a human, right? So important. And that protection. So I will hear stories of physicians who say, I haven't had a day off in decades. Even on my days off, I will be checking my inbox, answering messages, answering phone calls from patients. But there's either the worry that when they get back, there's going to be a lot of things to do, or that they haven't really stepped back and thought, okay, I need 2 weeks off. Who can I find in the world who I can reciprocate for? So for instance, one of my colleagues is about to have all of May off, and I'm handling her inbox for her while she's away, and she'll be doing the same for me, or has done the same for me already. And it's that camaraderie of, even if you're in solo practice, there's a requirement that you get dedicated time off, not in middle of Mexico, checking that email, getting mad as heck, and spending the entire day upset because somebody emailed you while you're on leave. And you're like, well, why were you in there checking it? So tell us about that. How do you get that protected time off? What do you do? What are some of the strategies to help you there?
That's a great question. And I've learned so much from Sarah. Like, she's taught me. And, I hate to brag, but when you're 76, you kind of heard it all. I mean, even if you're dumb, you've kind of figured most of it out because you heard it so many times. So it's hard to get new ideas through. Like, I go to conferences and learn a couple of new things because I've just heard it all. You learn after 700,000 patients, even if you're really thick. So what's important if you're a solo family doctor like me and you can't get a locum? I mean, that's the problem, especially with maternity leave. It's really hard for women to get mat leaves. So you have to develop a relationship with another doctor who's your peer. So what I do, I can't get locums or anything here. So there's 2 other old GPs in town, and I split my job between the 2 of them. I don't try to burn out each of them.
Yeah.
So that's a trick. And then I cover for them. And it's easy because people think, oh, well, I'm going to be twice as busy. You're not. Like, when their patients call my secretary, who rules my life, I never talk on the phone ever. You haven't heard my phone ring. she filters out everything. If someone needs to talk to me, they need to come in and see me. She can filter out 90%. So they say another one of the two doctors, one of them covers my nursing homes, one covers my office. So one of the office patients phones and says, I need a physical. She goes, wait till your real doctor comes back in 2 weeks. I need my cholesterol. You wait for your real doctor. I need my blood pressure. So if it's not urgent, and if it's if I'm having chest pain down my left arm, hang up and call 911. So we only see 3 people a day from the other doctors because they're urgent. It might be a cold that's not COVID, might be back pain or a worker's comp. You're not going to make a worker's comp wait 2 weeks. That's hard on the patient. But they don't need their cholesterol or their pap smear or their counseling or their well baby for 2 weeks. So all that huge amount of stuff that's routine for us, dump it back. So you can always get, so even if you're in a 2-family doctor town, like where Sarah is, your best friend is that other doctor and you cover each other. And Sarah, it twigged my mind. I mentored an obstetrician who was out to save the world. And young female obstetrician, everybody loved her in town. And then, she's calling me because she's burnt out. Because she's a hero to everybody, and women love to come in and dump their problems on other women. You see, they don't dump their problems on an ugly old guy like me. They know I don't care. But so she was doing her charting in Florida on the beach, on a holiday. She's on call for obstetrics, advising women like when they should go in. Like, that's bad medicine. Like, I don't want that if I'm pregnant. I want someone focused on me, not, the surf. It's dangerous as hell. She could get sued or a college complaint, and it's terrible for her because she's never off. The definition of a vacation is you don't know what day it is. You're sitting there going, is it Tuesday or Thursday? I don't know. I have no iPhone. I can't check. I'm just having fun. I'm just enjoying my kids and my spouse, and swimming and reading trash, and I'm not doing medical crap at all. And here's the one time that Sarah and I disagree. I say, when you come back, because she always says, she was always told just to go in on Sunday to get caught up on stuff. So I'm that guy that told her to go on Sunday, but I always just go one Sunday. So if you take a 2-week vacation, come back a day early that Sunday and I'm here in this office alone for 8 hours getting caught up on my paperwork and my in basket and stuff like that. So I start Monday fresh and ahead of time instead of digging out and needing a vacation for my vacation.
Yeah. Another it's where we disagree. We have the same idea that there will be some things. What's really lovely is when we really, really feel like we can truly hand off that inbox to somebody else, and they know how you prefer to. So for instance, one of my colleagues is currently away and his inbox is being handled by another doctor, but I was in looking after a couple of his patients. So I said to the doctor covering for him, what's this doctor's rules about the inbox? Because if I'm in there seeing this patient, can I mark off everything? And he said that the rule this time is he wants to read those referral letters when he gets back. I'm like, sure, I'll leave those alone. I'll do all the other pieces on his behalf, and I'll do the items that need doing, and I'll put in the reminders that need reminding, like the things that we have in our EMR to help us kind of delegate to our team members as we go. But when he gets back from his month-long vacation, he's going to have like 100 consultation letters to read. Sure, great reading. It's like reading a novel. But when I get back, I like to see completely empty inboxes. And so I've actually let go of having to read those consultation letters when I'm not there, knowing that my colleague can read it for important information. And my patients are told that if I'm away, you won't get, the usual quick phone call from me if needed. That they're going to need to come in and talk to me if they want to know what happened or what their specialist said, that type of thing. And to come back to empty is a beautiful thing.
Well,
a
that's
beautiful
a
thing.
great hybrid. And see, she's taught me. So I'm getting this all free from Sarah, and you guys have to pay. But no, and one other thing I wanted to say that Sarah taught me was about ADHD, which I have, and I think a lot of you have. And we're high functioning. I didn't even know I'm a high functioning ADHD. And when I mentor people, I have to do it with my book. So I stay, so I don't jump around. And that the biggest problem, I think, probably with a lot of your students is distractions. We get distracted. And you can see right here, this is my office right in the middle of a busy, whatever day today is, Wednesday. I'm not distracted. And then I remember another doctor said to me, she said, well, it's easy for you, John, because you're a solo GP and you're all alone in your office. Like I am in a busy clinic and I'm trying to do my paperwork and stuff and my computer work. And I got 10 other doctors talking to me and secretaries and nurses and phone calls. So I can't get what you get, this quiet, wonderful office here that you spend 8 hours in on the last day of your vacation. And every morning from 8 till 9 is here undistracted. This is turned off. My secretary doesn't roll in till 9. I'm signed out to other doctors till 9. I never check TikTok or anything like that. I am undistracted. I get it done, and then I reward myself. I have a coffee and read the Globe and Mail at 9 o'clock. That's and when I come back for 8 hours after a vacation, I take myself out to dinner to the keg, and I have lobster and prime rib, the Alberta beef, and that's my reward. So I've done 8 hours, and now you're going to go out and have a wonderful restaurant meal and start tomorrow afresh instead of behind the 8 ball and hating it and needing another vacation. And I needed vacation for my vacation. So I'm always rewarding myself. Like that's how you train dogs. When a dog shakes a paw, you give them a dog treat, right? That's how they train everybody. That's how you train babies. When they poop in the in their diaper, it's great. And then they poop in the toilet and they poop in the potty. You're smiling and laughing. You're positively reinforcing. So you got to positively reinforce yourself. So the secret to the distracting clinic is you've got to go into an exam room. And this is a lot of young doctors with young kids. You can't do your paperwork 8 till 9 in the morning because that's getting the kids off to school and yourself. So that's good for old people like me. And when your kids finally leave the nest, which they never do, my 40-year-old still needs money. So they're never going to go away. And to be undistracted in a clinic, go in at lunchtime and take your sandwich and lock the door and put a sign on the door and say, interrupt me if there's a fire, nothing else. I don't care. If someone's got chest pain, call 911 and tell your secretary that and the other doctors and everybody. This is not a joke. I don't want to do this at night. Never do your work at night. Never chart after hours, like Sarah's mantra. So it's all done 12 till 1 while I'm eating my sandwich, and then I go home at 5 o'clock and I'm done. I never take home a briefcase. I never take home turn off my iPhone at 5, never talk to patients, never text patients, never email patients, never, never, never. There is never a reason to do that. Look at me. This is what we had for the last 10,000, since Alexander Graham Bell invented it, 10 miles south of me, 150 years ago. Nobody died. Everybody did fine. They didn't need to text their doctor. They didn't need to email their doctor personally. I mean, you can do that with your clinic. That's what burns you out. If you get a text or an email or a phone call at 7 o'clock tonight, your spouse is angry, your kids are angry, you're not off, you're never off. That's why doctors burn. I haven't burned out because I have boundaries, firm boundaries. I just had a nurse at the nursing home today say, could I help her medically? Because she couldn't get through to her doctor. And I said, no, I can't. I'm not. You're going to have to go to a walk-in or a merge. I do not. The minute you start helping her, you'll have every nurse at the nursing home because none of them can get in to see their doctor. So they might think I'm a jerk and a mean guy, but guess what? I'm still smiling after 50 years. I would have quit long ago because you're starting to fix the healthcare system. It is not your problem. You can't fix the healthcare system. You can't build more hospitals. You can't make the emerge go faster. You can't get into specialists faster. You can't get an MRI fast. You just have a patient right here and now in the other room. My nurse practitioner is seeing her right this minute, who wants us to move up her MRI for her tension headaches. Like, there's no red flags, not our problem. We go, sorry, we can't. Talk to the radiologist. I'm not trying to take on your problems in the healthcare system. That's what kills us, trying to MacGyver the system for our patients. And they don't like it and they're mad at me. I go, don't be mad at me, be mad at the premier of my province. That's the guy in charge, or the governor of your state, or whatever, whoever pays for you in the US with private insurance. It's not your problem. You cannot fix the system. And it's when you keep trying to fix the system, that's really burns you out, because there's nothing you can do, and all you do is get more and more frustrated.
Yeah.
And just remember, everything is run for the last 10,000 years before you got here. And if you died tomorrow, it would run fine without you. So stop trying to think you're the guy that's going to cure everything that no one else has ever fixed.
Yeah. We've all had the experience of, and there'll be times when we advocate for a particular patient for a particular reason that we understand well. And even then it can come back and bite you, because you can do hours of organizing and then the patient doesn't show up for whatever reason. And you're just distressed by that, because you know how much of the additional work you took on, or the things you delayed to be able to do that for that particular patient. And it's just kind of that reminder to just be very wise with the time you invest in that additional extra advocacy that we want to do as that high level medical professional, right? At that high level executive function that we provide for our patients. We want to be able to do all of the things for all of them. And that contributes to, it's going to delay you getting some of the things done in your day that are part of every day that we have. So you've kind of knuckled it down to 8 till 9 in the morning. I know that right now, with the types of communications coming in, since COVID has allowed us a lot more virtual and portals and emails, it's gone above and beyond that 1 hour to get rid of today's work. And it's becoming bigger and bigger. And I see that stress on physicians that they can't get it done in that time. And so we're now focusing on that. Who else is on your team? Who else can we send this to? Is this your job? Is this truly physician work, or is it not physician work? So I'm thinking that within your hour, you do a lot of that task moving. Or do you find that it's done before you get there, that it's only things for you?
No, that's great. Learning from you as always. And if just to backtrack, yeah, I'm not as nasty as I sound. Like I am a soft touch, and I have my secretary, I call her Rent-A-Spine. She keeps people away from me because they get a hold of me, So, and I recognize, and my wife too, I'm protected by these strong women. And and I will go to bat for people. Like, I had a guy once who was just getting personality changes, and he'd had a previous brain tumor as a kid. And my secretary and I really fought hard to get an MRI stat for him. And he had a big frontal lobe tumor, and they took it out, and he's doing fabulously 10 years later. So, and he would have coned and died with that. I mean, it was raised intracranial pressure. So I will die on that hill if I really believe in it. But this woman has zero red flags. She's had a normal CAT scan. She's under enormous stress. So I am not going to die on the hill of getting her a faster MRI. And I told her that. And her son is a doctor, and I trained him as a medical student. And I said, I am not going to phone up the radiologist and beg for you to get an earlier MRI. And I wasn't mean or not. I just said, you have no red flags. I wouldn't do it for me. I always tell people I would not do this for me or my wife or my kids. I treat you exactly the way I treat myself. Now, to get back to can you get it all done in those 5 hours, like 8 till 9, Monday to Friday? First of all, I think you can, if you're not distracted. Everyone is distracted because we hate doing it. So anything that'll distract us, we love it. So I'm going to check out TikTok and, read Reddit and stuff I love all that stuff. So I have to protect myself from myself. So I have to turn that off and put it in another room. I have to create all these little gimmicks to stop myself, and then I reward myself. So I get done, and I really urge anybody. When I read consult notes, I just read the conclusion. Here's a big thing, like when an internist or a cardiologist sends you back, you have to find out all the drug changes in the letter. Like these people, if any of you are out there, please, please, please just bold what you're doing, or your secretary. Like, we don't want to try to find out you doubled the Norvasc or cut it in half. So my secretary is really good. And like I've always say to people, you've got to pay good money for a good secretary. I pay her $32 an hour. A lot of doctors pay $15 an hour, and they have a new secretary every month. So mine is so fabulous and wonderful and treated like a queen that she does this work for me. So all those drugs are in there. And another trick too is with difficult seniors on a bunch of drugs, when they come in, we always say, bring in your caregiver, bring in all your drugs. So then we make sure so that's a huge thing when you're doing your paperwork. And you can delegate. Like right now, my nurse practitioner does all my paperwork and all my phone work. So, but that's because I'm old and I can afford her. If you're young and paying a mortgage, you can't do that. But you can get a nurse to go through your lab work, and just because 90% of our stuff is normal. So all she has to do is just send to you the abnormal stuff. And a lot of it's just trivial, like creatinine of 1% below normal or above. So we can say in a second not to worry about that, but your secretary can't. We have that. That's why we went to med school, to have that judgment. So if you can delegate a lot of that normal crap to your nurse or your secretary and train them how to do it, then you don't want to miss anything. I once missed a high white count on a guy, like 300,000. It's called flag fatigue. You're looking at your computer. That's why you have to be fresh and in the morning and reward. It's the most important thing of the day, because that 300,000 white count went past me because I was doing a bunch of things and I was on the phone, and I missed that. And I had to bring that guy in and apologize, and everything was fine. And I just saw him the other day, and 20 years later, he's fine. He had adult onset leukemia, which is fairly benign, usually doesn't kill people. But I said to him, I made a mistake. I missed your high white count, and I really apologize. And I'm not going to do it again. I'm not going to do my paperwork when I'm tired or at night or crabby. I'm going to do it when I'm fresh in the morning. And if I had little kids, I would do it when I'm fresh at lunchtime, but never after hours, never, ever after hours. That it's bad for the patient and bad for you and bad for your family. And that's, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's why you need to really change your life here. Only you can do it. And another doctor, what they did to not be distracted was go and sit in their car with the windows up, and the air conditioning on, doing their work. And another one put on headphones that was connected to nothing. So people thought, and you could put on your forehead, do not, disturb me, because they're taking away your night tonight. When they're talking to you at lunch or 8 in the morning, you're not talking to your spouse at 7 o'clock tonight. So you got to balance. Who's more important? My colleague in the doctor's pit who just wants to bitch about the healthcare system, or my husband or my wife or my kids tonight or on the weekend? They're the most, I always say, you're the top priority. You're number one, because everything flows from you. Your spouse is number 2, your kids are number 3, and medicine is number 4. That's how you should live your life, because your kids will leave, hopefully. It'll be just you and it's just me and my wife now. We've been married 48 years. So you got to work on that marriage. You can't set it aside and pick it up after the kids go. That spouse is number one, not just the 2 of you when you get old and wrinkly like I am right now. That's who it's down to. Your friends are gone, your kids are gone. So that marriage is more important than your patients.
So when I'm talking sometimes to physicians, they're thinking that, well, that's selfish and it's using up a lot of the that guilting themselves. So kind of delaying it till evening's not hurting anyone because everyone's already gone to bed and that type of thing. But I like to kind of bring it back and say, well, the colleague sitting next to you or the colleague in the emergency department after a long shift, do you want them going home and spending the next 4 to 6 hours charting and coming back tomorrow exhausted and eventually wanting to leave? Or do you want them going home and resting well so that they'll come back again tomorrow and again tomorrow and again tomorrow? Same with your colleague in the office. Do you want them chatting to you through lunch break and then having to go home and finish that work? Or do you want them to go home and rest so that they can come back tomorrow and back tomorrow and back tomorrow? So we're not sitting there looking at a whole bunch of us leaving because we're all tired and burnt out because we're never resting well and we're not sleeping well and we're kind of delaying relationships and fun. So it's, while it can feel selfish in the moment to make these changes, it's also part of sustainability, right? It's part of that ability to come back each day is the ability to rest well.
No, that's brilliant. And I never thought of it. Learning again from you. And I'm going to do a blog about that. I'm so convinced that this is the #1 problem in healthcare right now. It sounds so trivial and it's nothing, it's not about heart transplants and cancer and everything. It's us being killed by paperwork. And it's killing us. It's killing everybody. And it's Googling patients and just this is a new tool that we've got to get a handle on. We didn't have this problem in the past. We had one phone line that your secretary held on to that. You never dealt with anything. You were never talking to people on the phone. She ran your world. So when you went home at night, you were done. And our paperwork, here, I'll show you what our paperwork used to look like. I've got it in, I kept it in my desk. That's the doctor before me, 30 years ago. That was his paperwork, one line on a recipe card.
One line on a recipe card. Yeah, I was
Says,
looking through
it's
old
got the
charts.
patient name and the prescription, and that was it. So this now is killing us. There's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
I got to fill out a form. So we've got to come up with new tools. And I like your idea. You just taught me a new thing here, Sarah, was we've got to think of that other doctor in the pit that is not going home today with their work done. It's like two alcoholics drinking together. So both of us have got to stop drinking. Both of us have got to stop chatting, and it's important to bitch to each other. That's important. That's group therapy.
Collegiality, group therapy, yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, it's also reminding each other. So being part of that importance that the team is doing their work, the team is getting everything done because it's creating a sustainable model for our. Yeah.
And that other person, and you've got to tell them that to their face. Like, you got to sit down. I always say to doctors, have an office meeting with everyone there, every doctor, every admin person, every single person, the janitor, every single person that works in your office. And I always offer, I'm happy to do a free Zoom meeting with you to get things kicked off. But so let's have an agreement how we're going to treat this office. Like, when are we going to do our paperwork and not be interrupted by the secretary and the nurse and the phone calls and the fellow doctor? Like, when's our sacred time? Like, let's set a sacred time. No one, unless there's a fire in the building, nothing else can knock on your door to distract you. And this is huge. This sounds so trivial, but it's like, I like it at emergency medicine is ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. After that, you can take a breath. Nothing matters. Once you've got the ABCs, you got all the time in the world to deal with an emerged patient. But this is the airway of emergency of us being specialists and GPs dealing with paperwork and the Googling patients. So we've got to come up with, this is a new invention. So we have to get a new way of coping with it.
Yeah, that's right. So it's that always thinking and redesigning what's coming in, what's the math of it, how long does it take us, why, what are we doing that's not for us, how do we get that off our plate and onto somebody else's. And then even the things that are in your control, like that portal message that comes from a patient, that's for you. But are you being recognized for it? Is it actually something you're being paid for? Or how else do you want to handle this question? Because sitting there writing an essay that you're not getting paid for, that's not so fun, versus the patient coming back in, and there's all the access issues of getting them back in. When are we going to get them back in? But all of that's important so that we can actually keep this sustainable and within the hours of the day that we're given.
It's a huge crisis. It's horrific, and it's getting worse by the day. I've never seen it this bad in 50 years, because everyone in our, we're horizontal. Everyone else in our life is vertical, and they only think of themselves. So you get 40 people wanting you to do things every day. No one else has a job like that. Nobody else has a job. If you're a specialist, you have your nice little vertical thing. You've got all your own stresses, I know. But if you're a family doctor, you're trying to hold this system that is crumbling in front of us with more elderly people, more sick people, more drugs, more demanding, and the elderly are more complex, and the young ones Google more. So there's no easy patients. There's none. A 5-minute look in your ear, give the amoxil for the sore ear. Those are gone. The walk-ins take all those. You're dealing with granny on 10 drugs with 5 problems, and she wants to spend an hour with you, and you're getting paid $36, and your secretary is getting paid $30. So you're making $4 an hour.
Yeah, things that as we step back and think about our day that just don't make sense, that we actually have some ability to do something differently about, which is what I enjoy about this, is that we have infinite possibilities if we're willing to think about it from a perspective that can help us. So, yeah.
Oh, can I say one thing about a system thing? Because my whole idea is system. You can't change people, but you can change the system. Like, we're the same as we've always been since we were babies, but it's the system that trains us. And so, like, for marriages, you've got to have a date night in your calendar every week. Even if you just go to Swiss Chalet or something, or McDonald's, just alone, no phones, no kids, no medicine, no nothing, just you and your spouse. So you got to build that in as a system every week. No matter how busy the two of you are. If I could do that as a emerge doc, and my wife is a flight attendant, you can do that. Also, to get away alone for a weekend, alone, like no children, no relatives, nobody phoning you, just go away. I knew an internist in Nanaimo, British Columbia, who would go down to a hotel in Vancouver once a year, and just alone, just her alone, and then another time with her husband, and just order room service and spa and sleep in and read fat books and watch TV, and say to her husband, phone me if the house burns down. Don't call me about anything. And if one of the kids is in ICU, that's the only time you need to call me. And create that, build a system, build a reward around yourself, protect yourself, guard it with your life, your marriage as well too. Go away alone for the weekend. Plan that now, today. As soon as you see this podcast, phone up your spouse and say, in the next month, you and I are going away alone, with no children and no relatives and no cell phones, and we're going to just party our brains out and sleep in and order room service and have spas, and go out and check out Niagara Falls or the Rockies or wherever you are.
Yeah.
Go to Banff for the weekend.
Yeah, it comes back to that.
Jasper is closer to you.
That's right. It comes back to that, prioritize what you find important, because as we know, medicine doesn't stop, and it will take everything if we don't actually get off the medicine treadmill and actually go and do the things that we're interested in. So what is medicine costing you right now? And what are the things that you're missing out on? And how do we start to get them back into your life, even little bit by little bit? If even finding date night or a night off for 5 minutes for yourself sounds hard right now, just start to thinking about the week ahead and saying, what would be easy? What could I do this week? That may not be perfect. It may not be those 3 hours that you want, but it could be that first 5 minutes or the first 50 minutes, just practicing, trying to get those priorities back, because they're important too about
you. Well, I had to learn too. Like, I used to always say, like, my wife and I would always go to Mexico alone for a week in February, and then we'd do March break with the kids. So all through the year, we'd hopscotch alone with kids. And people said, that's too far a bridge to take, John. Like, we can't, like one guy had never been away alone with his wife in 10 years. So you got to do baby steps. So we said, okay, start off with just dinner for 2 hours on a Saturday night and send me a picture of the two of you alone with no iPhones and no children in the picture. So just start them off baby steps and then go to a weekend away for a conference and don't take the kids with you. Because when you take your kids, I mean, I love my kids. I got 3 kids, but when they're with you, you're working again. You're working, worrying about them. They're having all the fun and you're worried about them getting lost and stuff or drowning in the hotel pool and stuff. So, but you can do that with your kids' March break. So your kids can still have you, but you've got to create that alone time with your spouse. Like when you first started dating, you've got to get that, because your marriage will fail, and it will fail when the kids leave. There's a lot of late divorces now, and I see this at my age. There's a lot of late because they don't know each other. They've been looking after everyone else except their marriage. So your marriage is the most important thing in your life, that those two people. So it'll bite you, and that's another cause of burnout, because then you do everything for medicine and nothing for your family. So medicine's number 4.
Medicine number 4. All right. Anything we need to touch on that we haven't spoken about that you'd like to add in now? I'm sure we'll have you back another time so we can catch up on other topics again.
Well, just a plug for my book. It's free ebook. Just email me. And if you don't have time to read it, The Joy of Medicine, I've got an audiobook for free.
Perfect. There we go. So The Joy of Medicine, Dr. John Crosby, thank you so much for being here today. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and try and figure out how you can get a little bit more of the priorities that you want in your life. That would be amazing for sustainability. Thanks again, John. Have a good day.
Thank you, Sarah. Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you for being part of the Sustainable Clinical Medicine podcast. If you'd like to learn more or join us to help you get home with today's work done, go to chartingcoach.ca. There you'll find all the information on the premier Lifetime Access Charting Champions program that is helping physicians get home with today's work done, with all the proven tools, support, and community you need to create time for your life outside of medicine. We would love to see you there. Until next time, thanks for listening.